biblical studies tends to be pretty slow on the uptake because there is so much tradition, there is so much dogmatism associated with its work and its findings that it tends to be a little slower to pick up new ways of thinking about data, new methodologies, new theories. Whereas things like Assyriology, which are in some ways kind of parallel, but also entirely distinct, they tend to move a little more quickly. And so a lot
most
of
people aren't still worshiping Marduk or Kamash, right? So they're not they're not looking to sort of, of course, people love to confirm their biases, but there's a difference between having an a priori commitment to something and just wanting something to be real, but it having no actual bearing on your life.
Right.
And it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert, that this field has been greatly stunted. Biblical studies or biblical archaeology, which I know is not really a term anymore, because for so long, people were taking the Bible and saying, this is true. Okay, let's shoehorn everything into this. And so not only are you having to undo a lot of that, you still have a lot of people, like you said, with a dogmatic mindset that don't want to think about things in a new way. They, in fact, only want to think about things one way. And it does seem that there is some growth there. I mean, at least it would seem in the last 50 years, as one would hope. But it is, I think, very hard to get people to shake some of those deep-seated beliefs, dogma, desire for that to be true. But I digress.
Yeah. Well, and Assyriology tends to, there are many ways that it still encroaches on modern identities, but it has to do more with nationalism and with ancestry, folks who live in these areas, who count those cultures among their ancestors. That tends to be where a lot of that can come from, and contemporary geopolitical issues and things like that. But in biblical studies, you're dealing with living, breathing religious texts for people who are still very much living those ideologies and those many of those practices. And so it is very different. But I do believe there's been quite a lot of progress made, and I think the next century will see a lot even more progress. I hope that we see exponential growth in the adoption of more critical methodologies, and also a lot more interdisciplinary work, because I think there's a lot of progress to be made by seeing what other fields can teach us, and also showing our data to other scholars from other fields and saying, what do you make of this? Can you help us? Because you think about these things in different ways, and maybe fresh eyes are what we need in order to crack these codes. So
well, I mean,
it is
something I've said regularly, if you've watched, or not you, but if anyone's watched my channel for any amount of time, is that as someone who would consider them